the master of animals. You've probably seen this image before and didn't even realize it. It's one of the oldest action poses in human history. Imagine you're walking through a museum. You see an Egyptian knife from 5,000 years ago. Then you walk into the next room and see a clay seal from India. Then a bronze statue from Iran. Even though these places are thousands of miles apart, they all show the exact same character. A single human standing in the middle, grabbing two massive, dangerous animals by the neck. Art historians call this the Master of Animals motif. We call this the Master of Animals. Let's look at the receipts, because these artifacts are mind-blowing. First, we have the Gebel el-Arak knife from Egypt. This thing is about 5,500 years old. To put that into perspective, it's a full 1,000 years older than the Great Pyramids. On the handle, carved into hippo ivory, is a man wearing a strange robe, holding two massive lions apart. He looks totally calm, like he's just walking two dogs at the park. Then, we fly 2,000 miles east to the Indus Valley, which is modern-day Pakistan. We find tiny stone seals used for trading. One famous seal shows a figure doing the exact same thing, but this time, he's wrestling two giant tigers. Finally, look at the Luristan bronzes from ancient Iran. These are incredibly detailed bronze bits and ornaments. Even here, hundreds of years later, you see a stylized human figure stretching out his arms to grab two mythical monsters by the throats. Now, here is the brain breaker. These cultures didn't have TikTok. They didn't have the internet. Most of them didn't even have roads connecting them. So why did an artist in the snowy mountains of Iran and a carver in the hot deserts of Egypt both decide that guy choking two lions was the coolest thing to draw? Is it a coincidence? Or is there something deeper going on in the human mind? To understand this, you have to put yourself in the shoes of an ancient human. For 99% of our history, humans were not the boss of the planet. We were the snacks. If you went for a walk to pick some berries, a leopard could jump out of a tree and it was game over. Nature was scary, chaotic, and way stronger than us. But then something changed. We started building cities. We started farming. We started feeling like maybe, just maybe, we were in charge. The Master of Animals isn't just a cool drawing, it's a political statement. It's the ancient way of saying we aren't the snacks anymore. We are the masters. Notice how the character is always in the middle and the animals are mirrored on both sides? This is a psychological trick. Symmetry feels like order. The wild was chaotic and dangerous. The figure in the center is calm, balanced, and in control. It's the ultimate ancient flex. It told the world that their king, or their god, was so powerful that nature itself had to sit down and shut up. This motif is the grandfather of every superhero poster you see today. When you see a movie poster where the hero is standing tall while explosions or monsters happen on both sides of him, you're looking at a 5,000-year-old psychological pattern. We've been obsessed with conquering the wild since we first picked up a carving tool. But as cool as the master is, it's nothing compared to the next pattern, one that explains how ancient humans built structures they mathematically shouldn't have been able to. Precision polygonal masonry. If you want to build a wall today, you use bricks. They're all the same size, they're rectangular, and you stick them together with mortar, which is basically just construction glue. But thousands of years ago, several cultures decided to do it the hard way, the really hard way. They took massive, irregular boulders, some weighing as much as a school bus, and carved them into complex, many-sided shapes. Then, they fit them together like a giant 3D jigsaw puzzle. This is called polygonal masonry. The fit is so perfect that thousands of years later, you still can't slide a single credit card between the stones. No glue, no cement, just gravity and pure precision. The most famous example is Sacsayhuaman in Peru. The Inca people moved stones that weigh over 100 tons and fit them together with 12 or even 13 angles. It's not just a flat wall, it's a masterpiece of geometry. But then you go to the Temple of Apollo at Delphi in Greece. You see exactly what you'd expect from ancient Greece. Perfect right angles, standing Doric columns, the peak of classical architecture. But look closer. Today, only 6 of these massive pillars are still standing. The rest of the temple was leveled by centuries of earthquakes and time. And that is where things get crazy. You might ask, where is that precision polygonal masonry design? It's right here, hidden in plain sight, holding up the entire mountain. The impossible masonry isn't the temple itself, it's the colossal retaining wall underneath it. This is the puzzle piece style taken to a level that defies logic. And if that's not weird enough, Go to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, to one of the most isolated places on Earth, Easter Island. You'll find the Ahu Vinapu platform. Same thing, massive basalt blocks, interlocking with impossible precision, thousands of miles away from any other civilization. So how did they pull this off without power saws or lasers? These weren't just random laborers, they were part of master guilds. These were specialized families who spent their entire lives learning the personality of different rocks. To get that perfect fit, they used a technique called scribing. They would hold a new stone above the one already in the wall, and literally trace the bottom rock's irregular shape onto the new one. But wait, I know what you're thinking. I just said these stones weigh 100 tons. How on earth does a normal person just hold a 100-ton boulder in the air, while someone else traces a line on it? Good catch. They didn't just use muscles, they also used physics. They built giant earthen ramps and used thick ropes to drag the stone up. Once it was sitting just above its final spot, they used massive wooden beams as levers and wooden shims to keep it suspended. While the stone was hovering there, the master builders would trace the line, slide the stone back, and chip away at the marks using hammerstones made of a much harder rock. They would do this over and over, lowering it to check the fit, then raising it back up to grind it down, until the two stones clicked together like a key in a lock. It wasn't magic, it was extreme, relentless patience. But why go through all that insane trouble? Why not just make squares and save everyone a decade of work? The answer is survival. Peru, Greece, and Easter Island are all earthquake zones. A standard brick wall is rigid. It cracks and collapses when the ground shakes. But a polygonal wall, because the stones are interlocked like puzzle pieces, they actually dance. During a tremor, the stones shift and vibrate against each other, but they don't slide out of place. Once the shaking stops, gravity pulls them right back into their original perfect fit. They weren't just building walls, they were building shock absorbers made of stone. Hand stencil. If you went back 30,000 years and met a caveman, you couldn't speak his language, you couldn't read his writing, because he didn't have any. But you would both understand one thing. This. All over the world, from the freezing canyons of Argentina to the limestone caves of France and the humid jungles of Indonesia, we find the exact same thing. Thousands of human handprints stenciled onto stone. It's the oldest, most haunting "I was here" in human history. Now, looking at these, you might think they just dipped their hand in paint and stamped it on the wall like a kindergartner. But look at the image. The hand itself is clean. It's the space around it that's colored. But look closer at the edges. The edges are soft and blurry. They weren't stamped, they were spray painted. But wait, how does someone in the Ice Age have a spray can? They used their own bodies as the machine. Archaeologists found the tools nearby. Hollow bird bones or reeds. Here's the gross but genius trick. They would grind up minerals like ochre for red or charcoal for black into a fine powder and mix it with water or animal fat. Then, they would put their hand against the wall, take a mouthful of this paint, and blow it through the hollow bone. The bone acted like a straw, turning their breath into a high-pressure mist. When they pulled their hand away, a perfect negative silhouette was left behind. The crazy part isn't just how they did it, it's the timing. The handprints in Sulawesi, Indonesia are over 40,000 years old. The ones in Chauvet, France are about 30,000 years old. The ones in Argentina are about 9,000 years old. These people were separated by entire oceans and tens of thousands of years. They had zero way of communicating. Yet they all stood in the dark, blew paint over their hands, and left a permanent mark. Why? Think about why you take a selfie or carve your initials into a desk. It's a way to prove you exist. For an ancient human, the world was a giant, terrifying place. Everything, the weather, the predators, the darkness, seemed to want to erase them. By putting their hand on the wall, they were saying, "I am a person. This is my hand. I was here." It's the most primal signature possible. It's not a name, it's a physical piece of themselves left behind for us to find. When you see one of these, you aren't just looking at art, you're looking at a literal high five from someone across the ocean of time. The pyramids. If I asked you to draw an ancient wonder, 90% of you would draw a pyramid. But here's the weird part. Almost every single major civilization on Earth, separated by oceans and thousands of years, obsessed over the exact same shape. Check this out. In Egypt, you have the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's made of 2.3 million stone blocks and was the tallest thing on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. But then you cross the Atlantic Ocean to Mexico. Deep in the Yucatan jungle, the Maya built El Castillo at Chichen Itza. It's a totally different culture. yet they built a massive four-sided mountain of stone. Then, head over to Iraq. The ancient Sumerians built the ziggurat of Ur. It's not smooth like Giza, but it's the same stairway to heaven design. From the white pyramids of Shanxi in China to the terraced slopes of Gunung Padang in Indonesia, and out to the desert graveyards of Meroe in Sudan, everyone was doing it. It's like there was a global memo sent out: if you're building something important, make it a triangle. Was it aliens? Was it a lost mother civilization? Actually, the answer is a lot more grounded. It's physics. Think about it. If you're an ancient architect and you want to build the tallest building in the world, you have a huge problem: gravity. If you build a straight vertical wall out of mud or stone, it's eventually going to buckle under its own weight and fall over. The pyramid is the most stable shape in the universe for heavy materials. By having a wide base and a narrow top, the weight is distributed perfectly. The bottom stones support the top stones, and the whole thing pushes inward toward the center. It's the same reason at the beach we build sandcastles in mounds rather than thin towers. It's the only way to get height without the whole thing collapsing. So the pyramid isn't a secret code. It's a universal solution to the problem of how do we touch the sky.